Hey, Divine Leader, welcome to this episode on the art of spiritual advancement, looking at the decade from 2012 to 2022 and beyond, so that you can really acknowledge what has evolved over the last 10 years and use that spiritual evolution, that spiritual advancement in a way that's moving your mission forward. So I'm going to go all in on the spiritual side of things in the Seven Figure Spiritual Leader podcast today. So I'm super excited and happy, and you're going to get a ton of value from this conversation. So where I would love to begin is to look at that year before December 21st, 2012. So as you may know, I'm a lifer when it comes to raising consciousness and spiritual evolution. I've been around a while in my business as well. And so you may remember like all the hoo-ha about the Mayan calendar, 2012. It was the end of the Mayan calendar. There was just a lot of conversation around 2012. And then here we are at the time of this recording, we're in the year 2022, so like 10 years later, and leading towards the December 22nd, 2022, like that 10-year anniversary since 2012. And there hasn't been a lot of talk, right, about 2012 for quite a while. And the guides have really been pointing my attention to kind of cycling back, and it's a big cycle, right? It's a decade cycle, circling back to really acknowledge and harvest and recognize how consciousness has changed in the last 10 years. And you can look at how consciousness has changed in the last 10 years and beyond. So if you're listening to this in 2023 or 2024, whatever, this is a larger arc of conversation that we're having. To really acknowledge the evolution in consciousness and how things have changed, it provides a platform for you to be current and be playing the current game. So what was working in 2011 in your business and when it came to your mission is not the same thing that's working in 2022. The principles may be the same. And yet there's a lot of things that have changed. So it's a little bit like if you were playing soccer before 2012, and now in 2022, you still have a ball, but you're playing basketball. All the rules that work in soccer, which is like you don't touch the ball with your hands, you're kicking it. That doesn't work in basketball. In basketball, you're dribbling the ball with your hands. You're not dribbling the ball with your foot. And so that applies in so many ways. And so we're talking about spiritual advancement, spiritual evolution as it applies to your daily life, because to me, it's not only about, of course, evolving our consciousness in the higher planes, yet how that translates to our daily life, to our mission, to our abundance, to the good that we're doing in the world, to our joy, to our health, to our energy, to our businesses. So we are looking at the lens of the art of spiritual advancement as we see it and experience it, not only inside, yet also in our external environment. Okay, so now that I've set the stage for this conversation, the first thing that I would love for you to do is to kind of look back at what rite of passage did you experience in the year leading up to December 2012. Now, I know that may take you a little bit of time to kind of get yourself back there. I know for me that there was some pretty big rite of passages, and in particular, we moved to France in November of 2012. And so that time of the end of the Mayan calendar, that time of the where was I on December 21st, 2012, I know for me exactly where I was, because I had just made a very big rite of passage kind of move. And that move had so many ripple effects. It had so many ripple effects that was perfect for my spiritual evolution, the advanced spiritual work that I was here to do. It was very important on a soul level, on a longer evolution in consciousness, for me to make that move, and also for my business and for my mission and all of the things. So once you have a sense, and I can hear some of you, right? Because one of my gifts is telepathic communication, multidimensional communication. It's how I channel the guides, and also how we're having a live conversation, even though this is recorded and I'm not talking to you verbally. Yet I hear some of you going like, Danielle, I didn't have a rite of passage between 2011 and 2012. And I would challenge you to go deeper. If you want to pause this and really reflect, find a way to spark, and this can be in any area of your life. So I said move. I could have talked about other rites of passages that were a part of my business. Like in 2011, that was my first multi-six-figure year. That's where I downloaded a certain program. Like there's things I could have talked about in terms of my business, and yet I talked about a move. So maybe you had an ending, which is also a rite of passage, an ending of a relationship or a job, or something completed. So once you have that kind of rite of passage, I'd invite you now to kind of fast forward 10 years and look at what rite of passage are you in 2022. And so again, if you're listening to this 3 years from now, because podcasts are evergreen, and whatever I do is always energetically amplified and encoded. And so there's many dimensions to it. So and as a visionary, I see things way in advance. So if you're listening to this later, you can still kind of go, okay, well, 2022, what rite of passage was I in? And so that may be like, for example, for me in 2022, I just submitted my manuscript and card deck for like the next body of work that's going to get published in 2023. And so that's a rite of passage. It may be that you are owning your home free and clear. It may be that you've started your business. It may be that you're having also a money rite of passage, where you're having your first six-figure year, or 7-figure year, whatever it is. It may also be a rite of passage, as you all may know, like I'm an avid hiker and love hiking, that one of the rite of passages that I know that I'll have this year is, inshallah, is to hike another 500 kilometers of the Camino. So that's a physical rite of passage, having a baby, getting married. And again, I'm kind of talking about life and business here to open up how you're looking at what rite of passages are you in. And so the first segment of this podcast is really acknowledging, by looking at your life, that the rites of passages that you had in 2012 and now in 2022, and that the first important key is to really acknowledge that. And you may also feel this kind of momentum of, like, especially in the first 6 months of 2022, of, okay, what else? What other big things are coming to a place of completion? And so, again, for me, it was a book, and there are other things that are unfolding on the physical plane as well, to things that got started in 2012 that now are getting completed in 2022, especially in the first 6 months. And to really recognize that when there are these rites of passages, when there are these milestones in your life, when these kind of bigger things happen, looking at a decade of your life, that's a bigger cycle than, okay, I'm going to do my 90-day plan or something like that. There's spiritual evolution that's attached to those, that not attached, that's connected to those milestones in your life, that are connected to those larger evolution in consciousness. And so, if I look at moving to France, for me, and that rite of passage and what happened on a spiritual level, there was so much there, because it was one of those forms of de-identification. And that may be another way, as you're kind of going, I still don't know what my rite of passage is, Danielle. It may also be something that was a de-identification, or if we look at from the Egyptian perspective of Isis and Osiris, that there was this dismemberment process of Osiris being dismembered into 14 different parts, and Isis collecting the parts, and everywhere she found one, she built a temple along the Nile. And then the resurrection of Osiris through Isis and Nephthys, through divine love in the Rama form, the sun and the moon, the Isis who's more forward facing, and Nephthys that works in the non-physical and in the light, in the night, in the light, at nighttime, the moon, the lunar energy. And so for me, there was this moving to France that was one of those dismemberment, de-identification, kind of the way that I was really was disintegrated. And I chose, and also my soul chose, to an experience like that accelerated that. So moving to a new country, where I had already been an established author and business owner, and had this career identity, and my friends and my family, and just the simple things of going to the grocery store, and to this very beautiful and yet humbling and bringing things to the surface experience of moving to France, not speaking the language, nobody knowing who I was. It was a little bit like also socializing, making friends, making connections without being able to speak. I'm a channel, I'm a divine transmitter. Like, communicating is the essence of what it is that I am up to. Of course, I can interdimensionally communicate, so that was always helpful. And yet there was this that experience that did bring up a lot of the old paradigms, slower vibrational fears, and doubts and emotions of and like kind of the bigger ones, like fear of dying alone, and so when you are looking at your rite of passage and what's happening in your life as a pathway for your evolution in consciousness, as a pathway for your spiritual advancement, and this is one of the big differences of 2012 to 2022, is that what used to evolve you in 2012 had a lot to do with overcoming something, or a slower vibrational experience, a slower vibrational thought or emotion, or kind of what I'm talking about, this like wake up call that and often a lot of us get started on our path of spiritual advancement, of spiritual evolution, of moving into the new paradigm because of some catalyst, some wake up call. Maybe it was burnout. Maybe it was whatever it was for you. That now in 2022, the way to evolve spiritually has changed a ton. It's changed a ton. It's like trying to dribble your ball down the field with the soccer rules is not going to be what is going to move you forward now, or to get those quantum leaps in your connection with source, and in really being the embodied expression of your mission in each and every now moment. And so that is a big difference. And so let's break that down a little bit more. And I know that this is a theme that I talk about, that Thoth and the Council of Light talk about, is like the whole what got you there in 2012 will not get you here 2022 in the new paradigm. And there's nothing really, there's not a lot more to be garnered from repeating those repetitive patterns of doubt and fear and lack, that there's so much more to be garnered from co-creation, from love, from abundance, from this entirely new operating system where meditation and your spiritual evolution is not only for like, okay, I'm going on this retreat, or I'm going to sit down and meditate for 5 minutes a day. It's ongoing all the time, every now moment, and in a very integrated way. So as and we work at Divine Transmissions with a lot of practitioners, healers, coaches, experts, leaders, authors, that one of the differences here is also really, like, a lot of times we might have gotten into these fields to heal something within ourselves, and to be in that coaching seat, for example, and yet there's a disconnect between perhaps the message that we speak and our experience of it. And now there really is, like, who I am as Danielle, for example, while I'm here on a podcast, while I'm at the grocery store, while I'm continuing to learn French, while I'm with my horses, while I'm with my family, while I'm with my friends, while I'm channeling, while I'm working with the energy of money and finances. It's like, it's very integrated. There's a very integrated way of being. And that the more that I'm really leaning into this 7-figure spiritual leader and this new paradigm of helping or facilitating or holding space to a whole new archetype of healer, an entirely new way of being a contribution that comes from overflow, that comes from abundance, that comes from really being connected in more and more and more and more now moments. Okay, so to summarize what I've spoken about so far is that to really harvest your spiritual advancement and your spiritual evolution from 2012 to 2022 is to take a look at like a bookend of rite of passages. So if you look at your 2012 rite of passage and your 2022 rite of passage, then those can shine the light, and you can harvest, you can acknowledge, you can really access more of what's changed for you in that decade. And then the second thing is now to be really playing this new game in a way that's very integrated. And that's another way of talking about what really has changed and what's different now, is that it's not like spiritual concepts. It's the embodiment and the actualization and the expression of those spiritual concepts in a way that you can touch them, in a way that you can feel them, in a way that it's very palpable to you and to those around you. So I would be remiss if I didn't bring in the council to talk in the last 5 minutes or so of this podcast about 2012 to 2022. And I feel like this is something that we can go very deep into it, because it's a very vast conversation, and yet just having a few access points for now will also very much accelerate your capacity in having your connection to source and to spirituality and to higher consciousness be in a way that really buoys your business, your mission, and your life. Hello, dear ones. This is Thoth and a special Ascended Master Council of Light, moving more into the forefront of this divine transmission to continue this exploration of now what? The all is well, now what? Now you have experienced a lot over 10 years individually. We're really talking about individually. And what 2022 and beyond requires for you individually is very bespoke, it's very customized, it's very tailored to you. And that is also one of the universal changes from 2012 to 2022, is that in the old paradigm, there was a lot of one size fits all, learning systems and applying them, trying to fit in, flying under the radar, the collective consciousness. And in 2022, there's a lot of, and beyond, a lot of innovation, a lot of individualization, being an individual, what we speak of as individualized oneness, to really leave the herd, to step into your unique brilliance and path. And that also really honors that although there's a lot happening on the earth at any given moment, like there is a lot that's happening, what has to do with your path, and especially those rite of passage kind of experiences where you meet somebody that's really going to make a difference in your path. Maybe you're meeting someone right now where you're connecting with us and with Danielle that's really going to make a difference on your path of having a spiritual mentorship team of beings of light and light, and a being of light incarnate as Danielle. And that as you have these rite of passages and these very bespoke experiences for you, there's a lot that just doesn't apply to your path. It's always been the case, and yet it's even more pronounced. It's even more pronounced. So maybe before you would try to be well-rounded or versatile, or a lot of the ideas where you had to be the Jack or the Jill of all trades. And now there's a recognition of actually every moment of your day, who is in it, what you're focused on, the experiences that you create are 100% tailor-made for you. And what if now you can start to experience even more of those types of experiences, individuals, opportunities that really exponentiate your capacity to be an embodied, advanced, dialed in spiritual being that is applying the art of spiritual advancement in a way that really makes your life phenomenal and also ripples out into the lives of others. So we would complete at this time. We know that there's a lot of value that was transmitted verbally and also in the non-physical realms, in the higher planes, and that at the very least we sense that you have started to look at some of your rites of passages in terms of how they have accelerated your consciousness, and then how having an accelerated consciousness then increases and amplifies the potency of your unique, one-of-a-kind lifetime business and experience. So it's not spiritual advancement just for the sake of it. It's really integrated. It's really integrated in a way that you're not in the cave. You're connected. You're connected. Good. And so if you sense that you would like to explore how we may support you in your evolution and consciousness and how that's applied as it relates to your mission, to being a 7-figure spiritual leader, to leading a global movement, then we would invite you to reach out to us, to send a direct message on Facebook. And then we can also share, based on what it is that you're looking for, the best way that we may be able to support you, because we have these very beautiful opportunities to partner with us that are quite different and unique. And so we can also explore what might be an optimal match at that time. Extending our acknowledgement and contribution to the rites of passages and your spiritual advancement. All is light and love, and we are all.